In this episode, we learn that suspiciously cheap motel rooms will still exist in 2038. We serve dinner that looks like it was thrown together by a toddler. And speaking of toddler food, we are surprised with the consistency of android brains. Very jello-y. Thank you for coming back from our replay reviews. My name is Leah.
And my name is Kathy.
We are two friends who are here to replay, review, and analyze your favorite video games. And since Kathy has never seen the games before, it helps me view them through her fresh eyes, almost like I'm discovering them again for the first time.
We hope it'll be a similar experience for you. Scene 1.
I would say you read my mind, but we do it every single episode. So. Still November 5th, but it's now 11 p.m. Kara and Alice reach the end of the bus line and have to get off, and they start searching for shelter. At some point, Alice wanders off to a bus station, and while there, a worker android approaches Kara and says, "You look lost. I know someone who can help you," and then seemingly transfers some data to Kara, who says, "But that's on the other side of town. We need a place for tonight."
This WR600 android is really creepy. I don't like that. But also, what's up with it always raining in these David Cage games? Like it's heavy raining.
I think he just loves that game. And any reference he can make to it.
Mm-hmm.
He just can't help himself.
Well, in hindsight, I don't know why they couldn't have just stayed at home with Todd's body and pretend like everything's fine until they could pack more stuff up, steal his money, and then leave. Like, I get you're nervous and you want to leave, but at that very moment, no one's going to know Todd's dead. Well, maybe the gunshot sound, so there's that, but still.
Yeah, they could have, like, gotten rid of the body or something, you know?
Mm-hmm.
They could have done something. They panicked. But now, they're here, and they enter a convenience store, and Kara uses Alice as a distraction to steal from the register. Okay, so Kara whispers to Alice, like, "I need you to go knock those cans over." And Alice goes, "Knock them down?" So loud. It irritates me. I know she's just a kid, but read the room, Alice.
But also, those cans, are those lettuce juice? What are those? They look like lettuce juice.
I don't know. Pull it up. That's so random.
Oh, it's lemon juice. It looks like limes. Hold on, let me share my screen.
To be fair, though, have you ever seen a can of lemon juice? Oh, it's like a drink, though. I was picturing like a bean kind of can.
Yeah,
not a drink kind of can.
Okay, in all fairness, this shade of blurriness looks like lettuce.
It must be lemon lime because that's way too green to be a lemon,
right? Anyways,
the distraction works, and they leave with money and a candy bar. Alice is upset that Kara used her, and Kara apologizes.
I'm glad Kara apologized. In this moment, she kind of reminds me of Haruka.
Yeah, I could see it.
But what's up with David Cage constantly making you choose some kind of ethical dilemma, be in that ethical dilemma situation where do you choose to steal or do you choose to starve yourself and die with this child?
The way I see it, they've already killed somebody.
That's
true. What's a candy bar and some cash gonna do?
That is true.
Who cares?
At least it left the convenience store guy alive.
It's true. Also, he was so nice to Alice when she knocked the cans down.
Mm-hmm.
If I were that guy, I would have been so annoyed at this little girl that just knocked all my cans down. But he's so nice. So, despite Alice being upset, they now have money and can stay in the motel and not the creepy derelict house. But androids are not allowed, so Kara has to get a change of clothes. So they head to the laundromat, and Alice gets mad again when Kara steals the laundry, but Alice she needs to understand the situation that they're in.
I totally understand where she's coming from, but at the same time, read the room, Alice. You either go back with like CPS and only be ignored some more, or you stick it out and tough it out with Kara.
Mm-hmm. And we already stole the money. Might as well double down, steal the clothes, stay in the motel.
So they're in the laundromat, there's an article there, and you're swiping through it, and one of the news article headlines is, "My husband got an android pregnant." And
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of questions I don't want to go into, but at the same time, I have a lot of questions.
Oh yeah, I do too. I mean, I think that they're parts. That sounds like I'm talking about reproductive parts, but I just mean parts to androids. They're called like biocomponents. So how much bio is there? Is that just what they're calling it because they look human? Or are there actual bio-based things? I don't know. Is it possible?
Why is CyberLife creating reproductive parts so they can create life? Like, you know what I mean? Like, why is one of the concerned, like, let's put ovaries in this android?
Yeah. I mean, we'll see soon that obviously they're going to make a lot of money with having, relations available with androids, but why the need for reproduction? That's taking it too far. It's creepy.
Or the other way around. What if it was an android who got a human pregnant? That's creepy too.
It's somehow weirder. I don't.
Yeah.
You expect humans to be gross like that, but
Yeah.
not an android.
I think we should move on.
We absolutely should move on. We get back to the motel and we book a room. It's only $40. I don't believe it. I really don't believe you will ever be able to book a motel for $40 in 2038. All right, next day, November 6th at 3:34 a.m. Marcus wakes up in what appears to be an android landfill. However, it took you until the absolute last moment in this scene to realize that this was Marcus.
I'm embarrassed. Well, I mean, there's a lot going on. You see this thing crawling through more things, and it's like, as you described, a scene from Toy Story where they're like sifting through trash.
Very
and
reminiscent.
It's like a different Potato Head where you're just finding components to stitch together. So it's a lot going on. In my defense.
It is. But I like how you went, wait, is that Marcus? Literally 2 seconds before he says, my name is Marcus.
Well, well, I didn't think that he would end up in the dump to begin with. I thought he would end up in jail, similar to the other dude that Connor captured.
As you alluded to, he has extensive damage and he has to find replacement parts. While wandering through the junkyard, an android in disrepair grabs his arm and says,
"There's a place where we can be free. Find Jericho."
Before seemingly shutting down. Marcus sees a flash image of a sign that says Ferndale.
Well, I'm wondering, is he getting the memory because he took parts from other people and therefore he gets their memory? Or is it the person who told him about Jericho, his last thing he did before he died, I guess, sent him that memory through whatever way androids have?
We saw this hinted in the previous scene when the android transfers data to Kara through touch. I think that's what's happening here as well, as he's giving him this information. Eventually he finds all the components that he needs and is able to reassemble himself. He also, at some point, lets an android live that has a part that he needs. Another one that he took a component from is convulsing after he took the therium pump out of it. How do you feel about him scavenging parts off of androids?
At first, I wanted to say that he has some level of empathy because he let that one android live.
Mm-hmm.
But then he doesn't do that for everyone. At the same time, I understand that if you don't take it from them, they're just still going to die. So what's the difference between now and a bit later?
It's a little bit of the Alice situation. You gotta do what you gotta do, but it's pretty brutal when you see that one android convulsing. Marcus is able to crawl out of the pit, and at the top he removes his LED, and this is when he says, "My name is Marcus." How did you feel about this scene? I feel like it looks good, but it goes on a bit too long. I like that this scene shows Marcus literally crawling out of a pit, putting himself together. but I feel like they overdid it a little bit, and it takes too long and it kind of takes away from it.
This is worse than Kara having to clean the house. I mean, I was awake for it. Not that you could tell because my camera was off, but I was awake for all of it compared to the other scene. I am curious about what that LED circle thing at his temple's for. Is it there to regulate emotions, or is it part of their brain, or is it CyberLife's ability to virtually wipe them clear of the memories? And I know that he's a deviant now, so removing it doesn't seem to be an issue. But let's say he wasn't a deviant. If he removed that, what's going to happen?
So I think it's just an indicator light.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just indicates what's going on with them internally.
Mm-hmm.
That's my understanding. It's now November 6th at 9:56 a.m. Connor is at some fancy garden thing looking for an Amanda. Walking around, he finds an odd, like, I don't know, maybe biosecurity thing or a screen. It has a handprint on it. So he places his palm on it and gets maybe a slight shock, or he's just surprised.
I feel like he's entering into a virtual environment, kind of like an Ari situation where Jaden has to put on his sunglasses, and I'm assuming there's some kind of key to confirm it is him. So I feel like that's what he's doing, that he's somehow connecting with this other virtual environment.
He does eventually find Amanda. She seems to be some kind of handler for him. She asks him questions about the investigation and kind of gauges and judges his responses. She seems fond of Connor despite her line of questioning. What are your impressions of Amanda so far?
Well, it's like, where does she come from? And how does she know this level of detail? Is she just reading Connor's mind? Because she seems to have some pretty in-depth knowledge of what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of, she references we multiple times. Who do you think we is? I'm guessing CyberLife.
Mm-hmm.
She says,
more and more androids show signs of deviancy. There are millions in circulation. If they become unstable, the consequences will be disastrous.
And then she says, hurry, Connor, there's little time. So does she know something? Why do we have this countdown sort of feeling from her?
I feel like she's either out to destroy the DPD, or she's going to take CyberLife and go rogue with it. I don't know.
Connor arrives at the police station to meet Hank, who is not in yet. After he does arrive, Connor sits in on a meeting where Hank is upset about being assigned to the deviant cases because he hates androids. I love when the captain kind of brushes Connor off, and Connor just goes, "Have a nice day, Captain." It's so passive aggressive.
I love Connor's sass. So when Connor is waiting for Hank, he's going through his desk to learn more about him, and we learn that Lieutenant Anderson has a lot of experience with red ice, and he was on a special task force. So right now there's two big issues. One, this red ice, and two, the deviants. So I'm wondering, what's that connection? Maybe red ice is something that can help power deviants, or not deviants, but just androids in general, instead of the blue stuff. Maybe if they take red ice, something's going to happen? I don't know.
I think we've seen red ice we saw Todd using it, and it was at the Carlos Ortiz crime scene.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like maybe when the humans take it, it could cause more aggression. But it is interesting because it contains therium, which is in blue blood. So there is a connection of some sort. After the meeting, Connor wanders around to find Carlos Ortiz's android in a holding cell. He knows the android held something back in the investigation, so he asks about the sculpture. All the android says in response is, "I'm going to die." As Connor starts walking away, the deviant self-destructs by repeatedly slamming its head against the glass. And we both felt like that shouldn't be enough damage to take an android out.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed yeah, underwhelming in terms of the amount of damage.
If Marcus can survive through whatever he went through,
Right.
this guy should have been able to survive.
Connor returns to Hank's desk and tries to make a connection with him. After some hit and miss conversation, Connor gets to work. But in this hit and miss conversation, one of my favorite lines,
I like dogs.
which
I wrote that too.
you noticed as well, and I was so glad you did.
It's so awkward, but it's so endearing at the same time.
I don't know if you remember, season 1, I said a majority of my favorite video game characters have some odd connection to dogs. This is one of them.
Oh.
Obviously, Majima, Big B. There's one more that's like one of my top characters that also has to do with dogs. It's weird. It's random. Anyway, I love this question. Again, sass and passive aggression coming out of Connor here. He says to Hank,
Is there any reason in particular you despise me?
So honest.
and just the way the line is delivered is fantastic.
I really do like Connor in this scene.
I feel like he's developing more personality. Maybe it's like building off of Hank's personality because he told Amanda that he would adapt to him. Hank responds, yeah, there is one, but does not elaborate. So in scrolling through the deviancy files, he discovers an AX400 murdered a man last night. So that's Kara. And he thinks it's a good starting point, but fails to convince Hank to go. However, an officer walks up with information on the same case, spurring Hank to check it out. Anything else on scene 3?
Nope.
So a little less than an hour later, we're back to Kara and Alice. Kara removes her LED like Marcus did and also changes her hairstyle and appearance.
Oh my gosh, can a woman have a different hairstyle than a bob or long hair? Unlike Madison, my goodness. But no, you had to choose a Madison haircut.
Had to choose the Madison haircut. At least she didn't rip her pants to be booty shorts. It was a full copy of the Madison club scene.
Thank goodness.
While waiting for Alice to take a bath, Kara sees a news report that is about her and about Todd's murder on the TV. And we see that this has had a negative impact on public opinion. Currently, the public is skeptical. Kara decides that they should check out the address the android gave her last night, but before they head out, we see that Connor and Hank have arrived at the motel looking for them.
Everything's moving pretty quickly. Like, how did they find Todd's body so quickly? How did Connor know to go to the motel? And how is Kara hearing about it so quickly that she knows she needs to make her escape?
There's a line of drug addicts at Todd's house.
Mm.
Their drug dealer's dead. It caused a commotion. But Connor and Hank question the motel clerk who gives them the room number, but Kara and Alice have already fled. Also, they forgot the chocolate bar in the hotel room.
After all that hard work. The other thing, too, is doesn't Connor address Kara as she when talking to the motel clerk, but then Hank addresses Kara as it? So I think it also goes to show how like the humans are seeing androids as things versus Connor himself as an android sees other androids as peers.
After some close calls, Kara and Alice are able to get on a train and make their escape. Okay, moving right along to scene 5. It's now 4:30 p.m. on November 6th, and Marcus is on a train, and we hear a news report saying that, well, referencing Connor, and then we hear it say a line, that this is the first time an android is helping with a criminal investigation. So there's a lot riding on Connor right now. He's the test. He's the example. Can androids be detectives?
The humans don't trust cyberlife enough to program androids in a way that they won't be crossing the line. And until the police have an ability to control what those limitations are for androids, I don't think androids should be part of the police force, no matter how good they are.
Yeah, it seems like there's maybe a lot riding on this for cyberlife, because if it goes well, this could be a whole new market for them. Marcus arrives at the Ferndale station, which is what he saw when the dying android told him to find Jericho. That image is the first in a set that creates a scavenger hunt leading to Jericho. What's with the guy that bumps into him after the escalator? I thought for sure that he, stole something from him, picked his pocket, but I don't think anything ever comes of it.
Yeah, I don't know why that scene was included. Maybe it goes to show that Marcus isn't aggressive? Because if that guy bumped into Todd, Todd would beat the living daylights out of him.
After the scavenger hunt, Marcus finally arrives at Jericho. It is a ship. Also, a bridge breaks, so he climbs up, but then he jumps off into the water? So I don't understand why he had to climb up. Why could he not just jump down from the get-go?
This scene makes as much sense as the construction scene in Heavy Rain, where it's absolutely unnecessary to do all that stuff.
Yeah. And then also, once we're inside the ship, why all the unnecessary horror?
It doesn't even go with the style of this video game.
Yeah. It's odd. And I feel like with the last Marcus scene, they were kind of trying to do a little bit of horror too, with the wall of arms and the jump scare of the guy grabbing him. Why? Why are we adding unnecessary horror into the Marcus chapters? I don't get it. And then he falls again. He makes it to the people, the androids of Jericho. And scene ends.
Great.
Yep. Now, 3:02 p.m., Connor and Hank stop so that Hank can get some food. Connor's goal in this scene is to reconcile with Hank. He watches him make an illegal bet. When Connor confronts him about it, I love how matter-of-fact Hank is. And Connor just seems so confused because he knows it's wrong, but Hank is so matter-of-fact about it not being a big deal that I think it just confuses him.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's also that kind of personality that CyberLife doesn't take into consideration when programming how to interact with other people. Hank's level of sarcasm extends to the point where he makes personality attacks on Connor, saying that, oh, your looks and your voices and everything that Connor can't change.
He's still trying to figure out Hank, for sure. Speaking of, Connor again asks him why he hates androids so much, and all he says is, I have my reasons. So we're still in the dark about that. But then Connor provides some information about deviance. He says that they believe a mutation in the software causes deviancy. His quote is, they don't feel emotion, they get overwhelmed by irrational instructions.
It makes a lot of sense because emotions include pain, but I don't think androids experience that. So it's you need some kind of stimulant to make them get panic attacks, essentially.
I mean, it seems like CyberLife has coded them to replicate human emotions, so something in the software would be telling them when to emote. So it makes sense that they would get overwhelmed in highly emotional situations like being abused. And then, one of my favorite, I like this scene in general. I think this is a good little break, and I like the dynamic between Connor and Hank. I feel like these actors have great chemistry, and I think this scene is a perfect example of it. At one point, Hank asks Connor what all he knows about him, and says, so what's your conclusion? And Connor responds, I think working with an officer with personal issues is an added challenge, but adapting to human unpredictability is one of my features. And then he winks. The wink is so funny. And I think it was also improvised, too.
Oh.
So soon Connor receives a report of a deviant only a few blocks away, so they leave to go check it out. They arrive at the location to find signs of a deviant, which Connor eventually locates and chases down. So we know that he likes to touch blood with his fingers and lick it, but he does it so quick in this scene. It's a quick lick. He does a quick lick.
He doesn't want Hank to know.
He doesn't. He's self-conscious now.
Isn't there more RA9 written on the wall?
Yeah,
So,
lots more.
yeah. So I'm wondering if RE9 has something to do with Jericho.
What we know so far is from the android interrogation where he says RE9 is the one that's going to set us free. He was the first of us to awaken. It's kind of cryptic right now, but it is very much a thing with the deviants.
Do you think RE9 is like short for the model number, like RE900 or RE9000 series?
I think it could be that, or I think it could be code, potentially. I don't really know anything about code. We'll see in the next couple scenes when Kara's having trouble remembering things. There's just like letters and numbers popping up, and it looks kind of similar. It's not the same. It's not RE9, but it's similar. So I feel like it's maybe a code type thing. While running from Connor, the deviant pushes Hank over a ledge. Hank is holding on, but now Connor has to make a decision. Stop the deviant or save Hank, who has an 89% chance of survival. What do you think I did in my original playthrough?
Of course you didn't save him.
No, I didn't. 89%
It's pretty
is
high.
fantastic odds. I was not going to let that deviant get away.
So what happened if that was the route you chose?
Oh, he just gets real pissed. He gets real pissed at Connor.
Hank?
In this yeah.
Oh.
In this playthrough, I saved him, which results in both a large spike in software instability for Connor, and Hank is considerably warmer towards him. But this decision is... I hate it. I hate this decision because I think it happens way too early in the game. We know that in this playthrough, I'm trying to make decisions that are more narratively pleasing, and this is the decision that just makes it difficult for me, because I feel like at this point in the game, Connor's so focused on his mission that he would look at the situation and say, Hank's gonna survive, I need to catch the deviant. But if he does that, I feel like the impact on his relationship with Hank is too extreme.
I wonder how much it impacts the game too if you continue playing as you left Hank alone.
We'll discuss more later at the end of the game about decisions, because I don't want to spoil things for you.
Okay.
Scene 7. November 6th, still, 5:13 p.m. We're back to Marcus. The androids of Jericho introduce themselves. We got Josh, Simon, and North. So there's some conversation. Marcus isn't very happy with the state of Jericho. He says, hiding just to stay alive, that's freedom to you. And one of them responds, we have more freedom here than you ever did. And Marcus rebuttals and says, waiting in the dark for something to happen, that's not how I see freedom. Thoughts on our first introduction to Jericho?
He's coming in hot with that kind of argument of immediately leading, like, a revolution in the android history of just being like, we don't stand for this, and immediately changing the dynamic that they have at Jericho, which is either going to be good or it's going to backfire on him.
I think he's really frustrated because it's like there's all this secrecy about Jericho, and then he gets there and it's just people hiding in the dark. So I understand his frustration. But yeah, he came in real hot. Well, first of all, he came in like falling from the ceiling, like he was sent from heaven. North tells Marcus to see Lucy. She might be able to help you, she says. Lucy does help Marcus heal. He's got a big gash in his side. She cauterizes it and then hands him a bottle of blue blood that looks so satisfying. The shape of this bottle, everything about this bottle. It reminds me so much of the Hercules movie. Do you remember the potion from that movie?
Was it blue?
I'll show you. I get flashbacks. It's pretty similar. It's not, obviously it's not exact, but...
Oh!
Right? Do you remember this? For whatever reason, when I was a kid, this potion just looked... I wanted it. I needed it.
I mean, I didn't want the potion. I don't remember it, but now that you show me, I can kind of recall it.
Lots of connections to old movies for us in this episode. So after healing him, she asks for Marcus's hand and analyzes him. She says,
You had it all, and you lost it all. You've seen hell, and now hell lives in you. Your heart is troubled. A part of shadow and a part of light. Which will prevail? Your choices will shape our destiny.
Pretty generic fortune telling right there.
Right. This part's a little over the top for me.
It's applicable to everyone, not just Marcus, so...
Yeah. A lot of this dialogue is just kind of generic.
Mm-hmm.
And cliche? I don't know. It reminds me a little bit of the guy that called him a demon. While wandering around, Marcus scans a CyberLife crate and discovers the location of a warehouse. He gets the others on board to rob them. He says, "We can steal what we need without fighting," and someone agrees it's better than waiting here to be shut down. What do you feel about what Marcus is doing so far?
I guess you don't have anything to lose. That's the main thing.
Yeah. I mean, we just saw one die. So,
I mean, there's that.
who's next? Are we ready for the final scene?
Yeah, let's do it.
Now 7:45 p.m., Kara and Alice arrive at Zlatko's house, the place that the android informed Kara about. But it seems kind of sketchy, and it does not take long for things to take a turn. Zlatko and his android Luther take them down to the basement after Zlatko says Kara needs to have her tracker removed. She's hooked up to this machine, and this is when he reveals that for some reason the trackers stop working at Deviants. So he's actually going to reset her memory and sell her or use her in his experiments.
I had a really bad feeling, and I told you that when we were watching the gameplay together. Why should they trust this dude? And also, if there was a tracker, it's too late to take off the tracker because they would have known where she was, and they would have known where she was way earlier. Similar to Alice, because she goes, "I have a bad feeling." This scene got me so stressed, though.
It is stressful. Kara does have her memory wiped, and she meets Luther upstairs as instructed, but on the way she experiences flashes of her memories, especially Alice. Kara is then tasked with bringing Zlatko his dinner, which appears to consist of 2 bags of chips, a sandwich, a loose donut, some cookies, I think 2 mini muffins, and then whatever milk tots are. I don't know what a milk tot is. But this is what I mean. This looks like a toddler put this meal together. This still makes me want donuts, though.
Dude.
We saw donuts on Hank's desk, and we have wanted donuts ever since.
Maybe we do donuts tomorrow together.
Just gonna order a box.
I'm just gonna come over to your place and just eat it all.
Just inhale some donuts. Kara overhears that Alice will be taken to Zlatko in 10 minutes, so she must find her before time runs out, all while trying to remember who she is. She does eventually regain her memory and locates Alice. They make a run for it, being chased by Zlatko and Luther.
While she's exploring the house, there's a lot of RA9 written on the walls again. So, what's going on?
It's just it's their graffiti of choice.
Yeah. Also, there's a freaking, like, a polar bear? Is that what it is?
Yeah. Cyber bear.
Yeah, what's it doing here?
I don't know, but that bear saved the day. That's for sure.
He's a hero.
Also, though, the stuffed ostrich.
Yeah, the taxidermy obsession.
Odd choice. In the backyard, they are cornered until Luther turns on Zlatko, who is then attacked by his experimental androids that sound kind of like dinosaurs. So Luther has become a deviant, and he wants to go with Kara and Alice. He says he knows someone who can get them to Canada.
I don't want to trust him because of what happened, but at the same time, if he wanted to do harm to them, he would have already done so. There's nothing left to lose.
Agreed. Here's the real question, though. Who's worse? Zlatko or Dr. Formaldehyde, Colin Mockery? Don't forget the ass grab.
Definitely, I feel like Dr. Formaldehyde was attempted and maybe an actual rapist versus Zlatko.
He's at least only resetting androids.
They're both crazy in terms of experiments, but one also wants to rape his victims, so I feel like that's worse.
Yeah. He was creepy. I think he's worse too. He just he's yuck. He's yucky. Well, anything else on part 2 you want to discuss?
This was an intense episode, going from horror and ethical dilemmas and possibly dying and then getting your memory wiped. It's intense.
It is intense. I find it curious how easy it was for her to get her memory back.
But I think they want to get the point across that emotions are stronger than anything. The feelings that she had for Alice is enough to overpower any type of, like, a external override, I guess.
What is that telling us? Because if you have your memory wiped, I mean, do they have a backup? Seems like it should just be gone. Do they create their own memory system, maybe, when they're deviant?
I think so.
But I think we agree that deviants have so much different in their code, maybe, that they can have a little bit more autonomy. Even in their code, in creating their own code, maybe. Well, is that all for part 2?
I think so. And if you're good with it, I'm going to call it Audacity on 1, 3, 2, 1.
Thank you for listening, and don't forget to send in any questions, comments, or game suggestions. You can find all our contact info on our website, replayreviewspod.com, or contact us directly through our site.
Did we completely miss something? Are we way off the mark? Or you just want us to take a deeper look at anything from the game? We'll tackle any topics you all want to hear in our season wrap-up episode.
We also have a Reddit where we discuss anything we're curious about. Go take a look and let us know what you're thinking. Our theme music is Condemned by Eggy Toast. They'll play you out, and we'll be back next week.